Welcome back to Call of the Wild, the show dedicating to teach you about the amazing animals we share this world with. In this episode, we will be discussing ferret basics and things you need to know before you get your ferret. So, including diet, sexing, housing, injections, and here's my friend Mel with Theodore in her bag. The stinky one. So, and I will be showing you Newt today. If you're not interested in this video, please feel free to check out my previous one where I introduce all my ferrets that I keep. And without further ado, let's begin. Number one thing I'm going to talk about is one of the most commonly misconstrued things about ferrets, is that ferrets are obligate carnivores. So an obligate carnivore is a complex way of putting they do not have the enzymes in their stomach to digest things such as fruit, barley, nuts, things like that. They're often mistaken for rodents. They are not. Ferrets are part of the Mycelidae family, so they are in the same family as things such as beavers, badgers, stoats, otters, minks. You can tell because they kind of all have the same little face. So there are three types of feeding that I would like to discuss. The first being kibble feeding. So kibble feeding is not what I would recommend personally. It's not going to give your ferret the very diet that it needs. Kibble feeding is a dried food like a cat biscuit or a dog biscuit, and you can buy them from pretty much any store, hopefully, if your town is good enough to have anything to do with ferrets. So when looking for a good kibble food, I would recommend Epigen 90 from Origin. But obviously for the UK-based people such as I, that's not always something that's available. So when I look for a good ferret food, because they are obligate carnivores, because they can't digest carbohydrates, you would like to see something with at least 30% protein in it, or something that has the first three ingredients as a meat product or a meat byproduct. So that's the first kind of feeding I'd talk about, is kibble feeding. Next to that you have mixed feeding, which is what I do at home. Is I kibble feed, I raw feed, and I frozen feed. So for that I usually get about twice a month a frozen rat pup or mouse, and I let it thaw out and then I give it them. It creates a lot of enrichment for them. If you are really sensitive to animal stuff, I wouldn't recommend watching that happen because it can be quite graphic. If you want to keep thinking of your little baby as a little baby, but it is better for them. It helps to enrich their lives and make them, happy, healthy ferrets. And the last feeding I'd like to talk about is raw feeding. So raw feeding is where you get offcuts of meat, or you just feed them meat. There's no kibble involved, there's no supplementing in their diet, it's just all meat products. Now, there's a large myth that raw feeding an animal makes it more violent and more aggressive. I don't know that to be true. I've never witnessed that. All of my ferrets eat raw food at some point, and that's not changed their characteristics at all. That's not made them violent. In many ways, it's made them better. So when you are raw feeding an animal, you do not cook it, you just serve it up to them nice and raw. And it's very important when raw feeding an animal to not give them the same cut of meat from the same animal all the time. So a ferret cannot have a healthy life, for example, if it only ever eats chicken breast. It has to be different cuts from different meat selections. So, for example, we fed our ferrets yesterday pork loin. A good favourite with them is chicken breast, obviously, because that's so easy to get a hand of. If you are raw feeding, I would suggest making a good connection with the butcher, maybe asking for leftover feet, snouts, internal organs, kidney is always great. So yeah, never ever 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 feed your ferret something that isn't a meat byproduct unless it is a ferret snack. For example, malt paste or salmon oil. Always do your research before you do anything like that. I've seen people feed their ferrets things like bananas and stuff like that, and it's just... Sorry, my friend's just handed me another ferret. Never feed them anything that is not meat, because they do not have the stomach to digest it, and it can cause blockages and impaction. Really important to know that. Make sure you feed them a high quality kibble. I would suggest mixing it up with some raw food, but that's just my personal opinion. So yes, that's diet, and now we'll move on to sexes and how to sext your ferrets. So I have Theodore with me right now. Nope, JJ, wrong ferret. This isn't Theodore, this is JJ. And JJ is what we like to call a hob. A hob is a male ferret and a Jill is a female ferret. So Hob is boy, Jill is girl. And the way you sex the ferret is quite easy. In comparison to most species, males tend to be larger than females. I've known a few females to be larger than males. That tends to be, you know, as it is. So the male's penis is located on his understomach here, so that it's here. And you should be able to see the shaft bit, the hole that it goes into. Have you got a female? Okay. And
She bites, be careful.
it's alright. And the female obviously doesn't have that. She has nipples on her stomach, and she also has her opening near her anus. So a really big important thing about ferrets, in contrast to male and female, and which one you want to keep, is that females come into season maybe twice a year. So a season is when they ovulate and have their, you know, period, for example, if they were a female woman. So when they ovulate, their vulva becomes enlarged, so it kind of looks like a pistachio, I guess. That's how we describe it when we're talking to people. So it kind of looks like a pistachio, and don't bite me, that's not very nice. This is one of the baby girls. And female ferrets, if left to ovulate, if left in season, can become incredibly sick. They can become anemic and they can die. So it's very important that once your female ferret is in season, you deal with that. I would not recommend breeding ferrets, as I said in my last video. It's not an experience I would go through again right now, but it's very important that you deal with it, that you put a stop to it. So there are 2 ways you can bring a female ferret out of season, technically 3. So you can mate her. That means that you put her with a male hob, and they have babies. You know, she stops ovulating because she is pregnant. The second way is you can put her with a vasectomized hob, where her body thinks, because she's had sex, because when a male ferret has sex with a female ferret, it's quite painful. It's not a pleasant experience. But due to that, a chemical signal is sent to her brain saying, look, you've had sex, you're going to have babies, it's time to come out of season now. So you can do that with a vasectomized hob. Or there is castration. I forgot about this before. There's castration, and that is where you have them castrated or neutered in the UK. There are many drawbacks to this, I'd say. There is the drawback of ferret swap. There is the drawback of sometimes tumours can occur. There's a lot of research still going into whether you should vasectomise a hob or neuter a female, and I would personally wouldn't. And then the third option is the Jill jab. Now this is what we go with. This is what we go with Ginny. This is our mother of all our ferrets. We had 1 breed out of her and it's never happening again. A Jill jab is where they inject the hormones that normally be secreted during sex for them, and it brings her out of season. Now, a Jill jab can either be successful or unsuccessful, and they do vary in price to where you are in the UK or in America. I think commonly most ferrets are vasectomized in America, but in the UK it varies. Oh, we tend to get ours for about £50-60. It's quite expensive. So keeping a female ferret can be quite expensive in comparison to a male ferret. Contraception for male ferrets varies as well. You can obviously get them vasectomized or snipped. There's something that we are looking into at the minute for our male ferrets called the rod, which is, if you think about it in contraception in females, is a rod that goes inside their arm. For male ferrets, it's a rod that goes on the inside of their leg and stops them from creating sperm. It will not get your other female ferrets pregnant. It will decrease their sex drive, which when males come in season can be quite aggressive. Yeah, they can be mated without a problem. So yeah, those are the difference between the sexes of male and female, or a Jill and a hob, and about a little bit about contraception and things you need to think about, because your ferret can't think about its own contraception. Holding ferrets is really important, making sure you have a secure grasp of your ferrets so they don't get in any trouble. This is a girl that is quite scrabbly. She's actually behaving herself right now, so that's a bit of a bad example. But the way I like to hold ferrets is you support one thumb underneath one of their arms and wrap your hand around the other side like that. You can support their bottom if you feel like it. They are fine, it's not going to damage their spines or anything. Nice example, Mel. Or if your ferret is being naughty, there is an automatic off switch, which is a scruff. So they just stop what they're doing, they let go. They will often yawn. That is a reflex of being scruffed for them. Holding a ferret correctly is really important. Ferrets have incredibly bendy spines, but that means also they have quite delicate spines. If you grab them in the wrong place, you can seriously displace a spine or really, really hurt your ferret. So making sure you have a secure grasp on them. You can also do a claw grab where you put one hand on either side, like that, and hold them like that. They don't like that as much, but to be fair, I've been holding my ferrets like that their entire lives, and it's never been much of a problem. If you have an aggressive ferret, all right. You might want to hold them by a scruff, by the back. It doesn't make you a bad owner for scruffing your ferret. So yeah. When you get your ferret, just like a cat or a dog, they need their vaccinations. Vaccinations help them to keep healthy. Many people recommend to not vaccinate your ferrets. I would not. There is some controversy over the distemper vaccination, but I have vaccinated my babies and there's been no issue. So vaccinating your ferrets, what we do in the UK is we vaccinate against rabies and we vaccinate against distemper. So when you vaccinate against these, just make sure that these guys can't get these conditions, which both are deadly to ferrets, that will end their lives if they get these illnesses. In the UK, we vaccinate once a year. So all my babies will be vaccinated once a year against these. You can vaccinate against other things, but commonly vets will not recommend it. These ones are the most dangerous, the untreatable, the things that will seriously put your ferret's life in jeopardy, and you don't want your ferrets to get at all. So in the UK, I think the rabies vaccination is £40 and the distemper is £60. We do that once a year for any ferrets that we walk, which is one at the minute, because the others are quite little still. I'm going to do an entire video on walking ferrets and how to walk your ferret efficiently, how to teach them to walk on the lead. They will never follow you around like a dog would follow you around, but they can walk on the lead and they can be quite effective and well behaved and follow your lead a little bit. Ow! That brings us nicely onto the topic of nip training. Really? So, when you get your ferret, the chances are that your ferret will bite you. This is just a common occurrence with ferrets. It's just something you need to deal with. So how we nip train our ferrets is quite easy. It's worked for all our ferrets. Nip training can be quite controversial in ferrets. Some people give their ferrets a timeout. Some people, scruff them. Some people flick them on the nose. Some people, put them down, put them away, say no at them, It works differently for different people, but I will show you how we nip trained our ferrets. Some ferrets, like Ginny, will never grow out of biting noses, as you just witnessed. She bit me on the nose. No.
Of course she does.
You're not having it.
Noses since she was dead little.
So, the way we nip train our ferrets is if they bite us, we scruff the back of the neck, we flick the nose. I didn't flick her nose properly there because I don't want her to know she's in trouble. She's not in trouble. And we put our finger like that in her mouth. She will kick it out. She doesn't want it there because she's a good girl. But this shows, hey, I'm in charge. Commonly, we do a no as well. None of our ferrets are scared of us. None of our ferrets have developed any aggression issues. We've never had any issues with our ferrets snapping harder at us, having a fight with us. Just make sure you're not flicking them incredibly hard, as ferrets have very, very, very sensitive noses. But all of our ferrets, I'd say, have come out as well-adjusted ferrets who I would not class as aggressive. Some ferrets will always have a passion for biting certain things. For Ginny, that's noses. Always noses, ever since she was a baby. We've tried to get it out of her. Just don't hold the ferret right next to your nose. Alright. So yeah, that's nip training for you. That's a little run through. Someone's falling. Nip training can be incredibly stressful and it can feel like a never-ending cycle. But when you have correctly nip trained your ferret, they will be an incredible member of your family. For me, with our ferret Newt, he was a bit of a nightmare to nip train. Newt. She's a lot tougher than me. Newt bit through the back of heels, toes, noses. He made my partner's nose bleed once. But once they are well adjusted, they are well adjusted, and they will make a brilliant member of your family, no matter where you are. So, caging. So, for a lot of people, there are 2 ways you can keep your ferret. There is free roaming, where your ferret bounces around your home and does whatever hell it likes. And there is caged. Now, in our house, we are a caged household because we do not have carpet in our house yet. And you hear the little feet everywhere, it's great. But the cage we keep in, I will do a full video on setting up a cage. But here's some basics. I would not recommend keeping your ferret outside. Ferrets smell. They do. That's just how ferrets smell. They smell. Dogs have a smell, but for some reason people tolerate dog smell more than ferret smell. I am a massive lover of ferret smell. I can't stand the way dogs smell. I hate it. I think it's the worst. It's because I worked in a dog daycare. There's a whole video on that coming out at some point. So, the cage we keep is a 4-story cage. It's about, would you say 5-6 foot?
Just about taller than me, so I'll say about 5.5.
About 5.5 foot. And we keep 4 ferrets in one and slightly more in the other, but that's just because we are selling babies at the minute. Now, I'll do a full video on this, but bedding is important. Ferrets have very delicate respiratory systems, which means they shouldn't be permanently on things such as sawdust. They should not be on hay, despite what older ferret keepers may say. They should be kept on something like Carefresh, Back to Nature, something with a low dust rate. For litter tray keeping, most ferrets will train themselves on how to use their litter tray. They will naturally find a corner and
sometimes they need a bit of help though.
Yeah, they will.
Looking at all that.
They will find a corner and they will poop in the corner. For litter tray, please use a biodegradable product. Don't use a cement kind of litter tray that you'd use for a cat. Use maybe a recyclable cardboard or paper. They're much better. Don't use newspaper. But those are some positives that you can think about. If your ferret is having trouble using the litter tray or finding the litter tray, a positive thing you can do is to put their poop in the corner where you want them to poop, and they will naturally smell where they've pooped and go to that corner. It's worked with all our ferrets. We still do have a few ferrets that like to poop on all the floors of their cage and make my life a living hell. But yes, ferrets tend to litter train themselves, and their cage, I will go into a whole video on that where I show you my cages and I do a remodel of my cages because they are in much need of a remodel and a putting cool stuff in it. Oh, be very wary of the things you keep in their cage in terms of what they can eat. So, in my cages, I like to have a pillow, but my ferrets like to destroy pillows. So they like to rip into them and they like to try and eat the pillow stuffing. This is not good. You will get an impacted ferret who is unwell. Probably froggy. I'll fill you in that on another video. But make sure you have things in your cage that are safe for them. Things that are rubber, make sure they can't chew them whilst you're gone. It's pretty great.
Things with plenty of things.
If you are caging your ferret, make sure they have at least 2 hours outside their cage a day. Minimum. Absolute minimum. Ferrets are very active. They are corporeal, which means they are awake at dawn and at dusk, and in between those times they tend to just zoink out. So in the morning, maybe let them out, or if you're like me, when you come home from college or work or school or whatever you're doing with your time, I don't know, put them out somewhere safe. I'll do a whole video because I'm actually trying to make them a ferret playpen at the bottom of my corridor.
My poor wall.
Go into that another video. A ferret playpen at the bottom of the corridor for them to play in and be safe in. There's a lot to know about ferrets in general, and I'm incredibly passionate about ferret welfare and how to look after them properly. It's incredibly controversial, as everything is in the animal community, in the pet community, because everyone is so passionate about what they love. So yes, I hope this video has given you some ideas on how to look after ferrets. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. If you want to have a healthy debate with me, have it in the comment section. I'm always up for a debate on what's right for ferrets and what's not right and what I'm doing wrong and what you think I'm doing wrong. So I think that'd be great. So yes, if you still want a ferret after this video, good luck. I hope you find a brilliant ferret to complete your household,
You're
or
never going to smell the same again. Your life's over.
or 2 ferrets to join your household in my tent, 10 ferrets to join your household. So yes, I hope you guys have a wonderful time. I will be back next week with a video on walking your ferret and the do's and don'ts and what to expect and all that fun stuff. So yes, I hope to see you guys later and have a wonderful week.
Peace
Bye.
out.